City. It might cover Kirisburg and other areas, but 40 miles will not reach Kakata City. Because from Morovia to Kakata is more than 40 miles. If my memory will serve me right, it's 40, 47, 48 miles from Morovia to Kakata. So now they made and drew this demarcation and they declared that the Republic of Liberia. The question here is, what happened to those indigenous people? Take, for example, the Ding and the Gola people that were in what we call Vatan today, all the way to Claratown, all the way to Corrigan, Bridge, Broadview. What happened to them? The demarcation, they don't talk about that. And these people all they push away from the territory and they took over. And then when you look at Manchester, the first Congo settlement or quote unquote settlement in Liberia, the natives were not there. They were all pushed away. They made this law, and then when you look at the very end of the commentary, they said those are the laws all nations around the world make, purposely for sovereignty and protection. Good. So were they protecting the indigenous or were they only protecting themselves? Because beyond the 40-mile rule, or beyond the 40 miles border rather, you find the indigenous people, quote unquote, our country people. You find us, you find me, you find my grandfather. So what was our protection if the rest of or a portion of our land have been declared? Were we left foreigner to that area? And exactly that is how it appeared to be. As the government settled Jesus Jigging Robert all the way to Erin Bagley or whatsoever, this 40-mile rule created nothing but hatred, division, animosity, and so every ill you think of. Now, let us just come back to most recent time. If you spoke to people or you happen to speak to people much older than us, people that they had nothing to do to come to Morovia. They were not allowed to cross a certain border that were initially, managed by either the Liberian Frontier Force, the LFF, or later on the Liberian National Guard, and up to the Liberian National Guard. I don't think the armed forces of Liberia ever had such an assignment. Well, the Liberian Frontier Force and the Liberian National Guard had that assignment. Once you're coming from the interior and the interior of Liberia, you must show probable cause. You must show a genuine reason. And that genuine reason has to be verified and approved before you cross that boundary into the declared country of the Republic of Liberia. So coming to Morovia for the indigenous people was not something they could think of. It was not possible for them. And that went on for years upon years. The 40-mile law, keeping the interior people from coming from coming to town, coming to Morovia. What is more egregious about this is, what is more painful are those people, the Mamba people, the Bassa people, or the Dane people, the Gola people in particular. That was their home. And then only to go realize that this very place where they were born and grew up, they've been pushed away from there. And now they can't come there. And they live without grudge. They live without peace. And that today, nothing has been done about it. The men who once owned Maba Point, indigenous men, live today. Some of their grandchildren or great-grandchildren live today. And when they look up the hill, they see beautiful buildings owned by the Brights, or owned by the Dennises, or owned by this other Congo. And they know their grand or great-grandfather also sold land to those people. But today, that is a strange land for them. Those buildings they don't even talk about. The proceeds they get from those buildings that whatever hotel they are, UN renting, they don't share it with those people. And that is the land they took away from them. They created what they call the land commissions, and create and appointed a land commissioner. And Detroit was one of such commissioners. And because of the rule and whatever that was, you could not continue doing such a job because That was like, hey, I'm not leaving from your Gosano County and declare my grandfather land as a government land. And not for them anymore, for government. That's what they did. When the Declaration of Independence was passed and this republic was declared, they declare every land, no matter who you are, where you are within their territory, they declare those lands as government property. You no longer have right on that land. You were considered a squatter. Now, we all know how much land fight can go in every country. We all know how much people family for land. One more than, a stranger coming from another country, you give him seat, he takes your land away from you. He sits on it. Where he sits is his land. The other land distance from him, he declare a government property and consider you the owner as a squatter. And he declared in an independent statement that these lands were bought, they were purchased. So who did they purchase the land from? And those kind of ills are created so much in the Liberian society. They are traumatized tribes upon tribes. And I can give you one example of such, in fact, two examples of such tribes. One of such tribe is extinct. I always use the word extinct. That is, though you still have remnant of them, but they chose to call themselves either a crew man or a bassa man or a peller man, instead of being calling themselves a mamba. The Ding people are almost being extinct too. You hardly find a Ding man now and they introduce himself, I'm a Ding man by tribe. They either tell you the Gora. The Bele tribe, though they are far away from the topic, we're talking about the far away from the interior, but they too, they are a tribe I always speak about, they being extinct. They either say the Bandi, the Loma, or the Kisi. And then you see the remaining tribes that are not yet extinct or fighting extinction, like the Gola tribe, they are traumatized. From the time that we've held and still we fought all we could, and we know, though we won some time, but we lost greatly most of the time, and we can't keep fighting. So that trauma left with them in the setting. And to make it worse, something that I'm going to end this topic on and go to the next topic. This form of declaration was a 40-mile rule. You were living in one area, you've been pushed away from there. Then the border is drawn, and they tell you you have to live 40 miles away from our settlement. You cannot cross into the settlement as far as 40 miles away. So they gave that when they see you anywhere in our territory, you're going to be arrested. And they're going to ask you, what are you doing here? Or if you get to that, oh, I used to live here before and I'm going to look at my place, you're in trouble, the government going to arrest you and prosecute you. What were they doing to them? I don't know. I don't have facts on that. Were they in prison for some time, turn back? I don't have that facts. Were they executed or whatsoever? I don't have those facts. But one thing I know is true, they were arrested. But they were turned away, just like that. But they were not allowed no 140 miles away from the settlement of Monrovia or where, quote unquote, the declared Republic of Liberia were allowed into Monrovia among them. The declaration was just for data alone, and every land within our territory was declared government land. Up to even 8 degrees further north or longitude or 32-degree latitude, they declare all that a government property. And if you were there now at their mercy, you squatter. And so the distinction was internally met to just be able, this kind of law was intentionally made and enforced for one primary reason. And that primary reason only happened to be the fact that we want to take hold, we want to grab power, we want to have control. Hey, we are strangers here. If we don't make these rules and these laws strong enough for us, we're going to lose, we'll not be able to settle here. We have to control them. Quote unquote, the war was all surrounded around political control. And today, the Gola people live with that trauma. A typical Gola man would just do almost nothing, prefer fooling around, maybe just do something for him and his family to survive. but not doing anything much because that suppression continued. When Liberia began to expand beyond the 40-mile border they drew initially, they said, okay, let us expand. When Bagley came and became president, he said, "Look, let us expand beyond this boundary, the 40 mile. Let us start going to area like Lufa. Let us start going to other area, like Sano and Grand Gila and this and that. Let's expand our authority." So what they did here is they used political, territorial limitation to expand. Nearly all the communities that were around them, they made Mozzarella a county. And all these strongholds like bombing, like Gibby, you know, they say, I mean, if we make these people county, we're going to give them much power right now, we will still lose grip. So they made bombing, for example, a territory to Mozzarella County. And the people that were once landowners now own territory. And bombing territory lasted until 1984. We all know that when Samuel Doe came to power, before bombing were allowed to a country status. That's how much that country was suppressed. They look at the other surrounding areas where they already had their headquarters, like Carisburg and Marshall and other areas. They put the both together and say, you know what happened? Okay, they were all called the Gibby territory, controlled by Mozzarella County. The superintendent of Mozzarella County had, oversight responsibility for those territories because they were territory under Mozzarella County or intended. It was not because of any other reason. The only reason for them creating such a government and calling certain group of 8 people and calling their land a territory of Mozzarella, which is their control, is to suppress them. And those ills live. You sit with a typical Bola man today and you remind him about those things, or he will remind you about it and tell you this is how much we're treated. And by the time Samuel Doe came to power, how much did he do to actually bring this up? Not much. The only thing here he did was, okay, we're going to take you people from a territory now and make you people autonomous country, and give people a country status. But that did not heal the wound. It had not healed that wound. That wound is still there. And so I'm going to take another musical break. And when we come back, I'm going to speak on another societal ill, which is the racial killing that began in Liberia as far back as, in fact, before the founding of Liberia. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Liberian Hot Show. And of course, I'm your host, Emmanuel Sumo, and we're speaking about the ills in Liberian society. And we're going as far back as the 1800s. I just spoke briefly something about the 1800s all the way to the 1900s when that 40-mile rule or 40-mile law was reenacted and abolished in Liberia, and Liberia got an expansion. And the Republic of Liberia looks like a Republic of Liberia today, not just for one group of people, but for everybody. But then there is something that I pay attention to that is created and continue to create a lot of ills in the Liberian community. In most recent time, something I applaud, I stand my hats off, a big salute to all those advocates, that are advocating for, against those men. I consider them psychologically sick that will go and rape women, raping girls. That is, you gotta be sick to do that. I mean, that is a project well taken because rape is a crime and rape is trauma. No woman deserves to be raped. That's a biology. You have control over it. But another call I would like to make here is we are a little bit too silent about the ritual killings that goes on in Liberia, especially during election periods. When you go into history, I mean, I might be calling certain tribes here, but I don't intend to demean your tribe in any way, but that is our history and we must say it. Ritual killing is not something new on earth. If you go into history, it was a very common practice in Egypt way back before Christ. Even after Christ came and died, people have been doing ritual killing for so many other, reasons. But I'm speaking about Liberia today, our country, and this is where, I want to focus on. I shouldn't go global. What I'm just telling you is not only in Liberia, our neighboring countries, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, they all do the same old ritual killing. But how did they become more popular? When you look at ancient history, the kings of those days, according to them, their God is self, because it's not my God, Jesus Christ. And I don't think it's the God of Muhammad Elam. But the gods that they were serving instructed them to, to sacrifice blood or human parts in return for them to remain powerful. And some of the human parts did not just come from any old person who is 90 or 80 or 95. So it doesn't matter. Any human life is valuable. But they were asking for human parts from children, especially females that are virgins. And you're talking about a child. Are you going to have a sacrifice to be made and they want the blood or the heart or the breast of a virgin? Someone is telling you go and kill somebody else's teenage child. And those days, it wasn't anything like the authority or the doer of the act was running away from. They knew that when that season comes and the king passed the law, or they know that that particular season, that is when, if you don't hold fast to your children, your child is going to get missing. Some kingdoms were so powerful in protecting their children during that period to the point that they could not get anybody's child easily outside to capture. So this time, some kings begin to mark, a certain community. Next time for the sacrifice, next year, a child will come from this community. And their soldiers or warriors will walk onto your door. They know who they're coming to. Open your door if you don't open it for them. Take your child, and the child is missing, and that is end of it. That's how violent it was. That's how brutal it was. And these things went on for a very, very long time, a very, very long period of time, as history, will illustrate, history will say. For the areas where it was not done that way, they always kept their eyes out looking for a child to sacrifice. And when areas that these things were popular, especially in Liberia, and some of these victims were eating. They were not just catching you, take out your parts, your breast or your private parts, your eyes and that. They will eat the rest, they will eat those parts. Believing that as they eat those parts, so they were like practicing cannibalism. They were cannibals in one other form. So in whatever it is, like those things were happening. And those are errors in society that at the time nobody could talk about. Why is it happening today? When election coming in Liberia, people go about or they want certain positions and they feel that's the only way. Some medicine man tell them, hey, you need to make this sacrifice as the only way the president will even pick up your call and you stand in front of him, anything you tell the president, he will do it. The position you want, he's going to give it to you. or this election you want to run, so in order to win this election, you need to do some blood sacrifice. At that time in Liberia, before other groups started coming in, Christian groups, don't just take it. There are people in this Christian missionary thing doing the same ritual killing, which I'm going to get to later on. And these things happen with other sororities and other societies, like the UBF, like the Masons. They all got into it. But it was not like the Mason or the UBF or the Christian church as a whole actually spearheading it. No, there were elements of these people, either a member of the church congregation or a member of the UBF or a member of the Masons or a member of quote unquote John Brown Society that were doing those things. And because almost every member doing the organization itself looked like they are the one doing it. But in Liberia, there was a racial organization called the Leper Society. And how did the Leper Society operate those days? These men, or these leper men with their charms and magical powers, would perform certain, thing, or would perform some ritual repeatedly and they're going to dress in leper skins. And because they are dressed in a leper skin and they continue to perform that ritual, magically, me and you looking at them, they look like a leper. But you have stronger eyes to look beyond. There's still that man who just dressed in leper skin. But their magical power makes them to look like a leper. And it is that leper according to them that captured your child and took your child away and ate your eyes, ate your breast or your private parts. And if you're lucky to find the remains, you're going to find it, all the blood drained out. And because the ordinary people saw these people or saw the creature that captured their child or their brother or their sister looking like a leper, they called them the leper man. And that society, until present day as I speak, still exists in Nema country among the Mano and the Giuk people. This is why when you read history and you go back, you find some historian calling the Giuk people in particular cannibals, because they perform these things in high society, very powerful society I'm talking about. But they ate these bodies, they ate parts of these people they capture only because they want to maintain their grip, their authority, in power or in leadership. For them, they were doing that because they are kings or they are leaders those days. They were required for a king to be greater and live long. That is why it has to be done. Then it became marketed when modern day people key in, the Masons, they taking over Liberia, they begin to get friendly with these interior people, they begin to invite these leper men. On the bastard side of this society, the leper man society is called a Ninji, which is interpreted as water leper. Most of these in ritual killing I'm talking about in the bastard setting, most of the victims are drowned or always found to be drowned by these very leper men or the water leper. And these things, when you go into history, at some point they were done at maybe one within a given community, maybe one victim per year or one victim every 3 years, but it was like one victim at a time. When modern people came in now, this one won't be minister, this one won't be senator, this one won't be representative, this one won't be lieutenant, this one won't be land commissioner, this one, they all want powers. Then the ritualistic killings expanded at a very vast. Just name these many positions that I have called plus more. Everyone want to do something. And they tell you, you know what, if you go to that village and you meet this man, you're going to tell you what you can do to get that job. I'll give you one example. That was like, as I speak to you right now, the most recent election of Liberia. There is a story, if Mr. Do you more, into the press, I'm sure you might have come across it. But a recent story about one Cephas who was killed in Ganta City, Nima County, by a very powerful man who is a commissioner assigned over there. And until today, nothing has happened. The societal ills I'm speaking about here is not just based on the crime, but when the crime is committed and someone's name is called, and because this person has no background, that person is arrested, prosecuted, and sent to jail. If that person say, oh, this thing you say I did, yes, I did it, but it is John Brown who sent me to do it. And because John Brown is a minister or is a senator and this and that, John Brown will never even be called and say, oh, I don't even know that boy from anywhere. They'll take their nonsense talk from in front of me. But this man is being involved into a killing. When you look at him, especially the case of the Cephas fellow in Nima County, and you look at this Samuel fellow who is a brother or nephew-in-law to the current Chief Justice of Liberia. And because his uncle-in-law is the Chief Justice of Liberia, and then this other motorcycle rider, poor boy, was lured by his friend onto his farm. And according to the fellow, that's all Samuel wanted him to do. Just bring somebody here for me, and I will take it from there. Send another, the boss, the murder, hit him with a stick, another one stabbed him with a knife in the back. He couldn't stand the scene, he ran away. Being afraid of this Samuel man, who knowing who he is with his local power and this and that, he could not go to the police, he sat down. At the end of the day, he couldn't stand it. He confessed to it. Today, he is the one in prison for lifetime. Mr. Samuel man is free. In fact, police refused to talk to Samuel because they said they now have sufficient evidence. You cannot get evidence until you ask questions. But even interrogation was not done. Now, these things, when you look on the other side, Cephas, the victim, his father continued to cry today for justice in Ganta, and no one is talking about it. And so I just decided to bring some of these things up on this show, which this show is all about. Not to wish hunt anybody, but to open the avenue for knowledge. And through knowledge, we can solve problems. Why is it that whenever election, you go to school, you have your degree, you learn a career, you are qualified, all you're looking for is opportunity. Is there no other way that you can create opportunities so that people can know you? Or is it that sacrificing a human life to gain popularity at the expense of another man's life? And you expect the community to live in peace with you or your family that you got or your relatives, people who know you, they know that you got something to do with this deceased person. But because they are in power, you are in power, they can't do anything. They pretend to live with you as though they are normal, as though they please with you because they can't help themselves. But in them, they live with a burning grudge, a burning pain, because no justice for them. May I be the voice for those people on this day. Somebody who knowing the story I'm just speaking about. Can you come up and talk more about it? For those Gola people that are hearing me as I spoke earlier, instead of you sitting down and don't want to do anything because you were reduced down to the point from your land until you as the owner of what we call Republic of Liberia today, you are only given a territory to live in and you're living without grudge. Come on, let's talk about it. I'm sure we can make some noise to the government and you can regain, not the land. I'm not saying come back again, we're going to get our land. But there's something somewhere I know, which I cannot declare right now on this show, that can be done, that can make the Gola man really again to live as a Gola man. And peace will return to Liberia. The racial killing I'm speaking about must be talked about. It is about time every Facebook page should carry just, you say, stop rape, almost every page. It's about time we begin to say, stop racial killings. These people, This is not the only way you can get power. You get power through knowledge, and knowledge is to learn. Knowledge is power, not ritual killing, not the blood of another person or the parts, the private part of another person being performed and decorated with the work of the devil. That's the only lasts for a time. Most of those things, and the interesting thing about here, I mean, I can't come out clearly, but for almost everyone who have ever been accused of being involved in ritual killing, they never live long. Because you know what? The devil also have a timeline. That's why all the sacrifice you made to me, when you get involved in it, you only got this time to live. He said, oh yeah, I prefer live, short, but I live a very rich life, and to live long and suffer. People make those decisions. You find someone there, and you think, by the time you think, you say, oh, this person here died today. Oh, really? Hey, man. Thank God it's on Facebook. Wherever they put it RIP, you're gone. But I'm not saying everyone dying young age is doing that. I'm saying that the devil does nothing free. The fact of the matter is you're taking the life of something that you cannot create. God gave us life, and you are not the taker. You should not be the taker of those life. Ritual killing. And so the leper man society begin to exist only because someone, everything have to sir. When the people begin to expand and the other boys, Congo boys, or whosoever from the West where they wanted power, they got in contact with the, leper men or the Nijis. And for every time election is around or somebody wants some favor from government, they go out there and people children are getting missing. When I was a little boy, I was warned whenever you see a car, a black car, run and go into the bush, don't let it reach you. Because men will jump from in our car, grab you, and put you in a bag and put in the car trunk, and at the end of you. So when we're walking our road and we heard car sound, first of all, the moment we hear the car sound, we're going to take cover in the bush and that car comes and pass. We don't care what color it is. And if we were walking and we ran into a car that broke down the road, we're going to turn back with the most speed we can ever run back. Or that person car just broke down for mechanical failure or not, because that was the trauma and that was the mindset that were given to us. Anyone who has a car are those people who sacrifice children to get that money. They are not good people. Until this day, those things live. Young girls go out, meet other people, and the next day you find out about it with part extracted. It is about time we begin to talk about these things. At the end of the day, all these people that are being killed by ritual killing, they have families. And the family cry the pain. They are the losers. Especially this ritual killing I'm telling you about, by the 1970s or so, it was so popular in Maryland County in Liberia. Until today, Maryland County is nicknamed, quote unquote, in Liberian Boyo. Because I know the Boyo war, that Boyo name is a name of a very huge man that once lived. I think by description, they say he was like 6 foot plus. If you are putting on the scale, he might be between 300 to 400 pounds. And that was a man that never one day feel anyone you want to capture, because sometimes they try to capture some of these victims and the victim, outpower them, stronger than them. And they will find a way and escape. But when you report, nothing comes out of it. Because you can't report to the very man who sent him. But Boyo, a very strong guy, who never wanted to lose a victim, he grabbed you. He was so strong. So everyone now that went after him, capturing people, for whoever that sent them, they call those people Boyo. And now, whatever it is, like the Boyo name became popular and the entire, ritual something just settled so most heavily in Maryland County. And then even in the 1930s too, that also went to the violence. In the VAR country, the Boyo thing was very popular there. And I want to believe the Boyo name came out of the VAR Council because Boyo is a VAR Gola name. Either Boyo or you Boya. Among the VAR and Gola people, that's the name of a man. And almost everybody in the VAR or Gola country they call Boya or Boyo, they are very huge people. So maybe that name transcended for a lot of ritual killing that used to happen in the VAR land. And also just call Maryland because Maryland was more heavily involved into it and very much known. Because someone from Lofa who want to do some ritual killing for power, they say, no, just go Maryland. Because in our area, you can find the people in there. So it was not that the people of Maryland alone were the ones responsible for that. But a Pele man may want to have so, he goes to Maryland and go get his power from there. The Loma man wants it, he goes to Maryland. So Maryland became like, a marketing place for those kind of thing. I want to believe, that's my own opinion. I don't want to believe it was only the Marylanders were doing the killing for the Marylanders. I want to believe the crewman wanted you went Maryland. The kissing man wanted such a power, you went Maryland. But in Maryland, they know what to do. Okay, where you coming from? From Lofa County. Okay. They go there, maybe capture somebody from you and kill them here and they find a body or whatsoever, I don't know. But this thing has created so much ills because there is no easy doing whenever you take the life of a person. No one is going to live knowing that I have my child, she had a future. When she was 14 years old, she went missing one day. Only will find her parts of her body were taken away. And so. Those are ills in society that are as equal as, someone sitting in government office and stealing your money and calling himself a minister or representative or senator. And the ills goes on. Just to divert a little bit, talking about that, a brother of mine get, nominated to a position by the president named him to be SYZ, and he's supposed to go for a confirmation hearing. And the senators on our committee, each of them charging him $500 to be confirmed. My man, you got to do confirmation time coming, go look around. He turn around, he can't be like, so that is too much, man. You people have many. It's okay, we'll call it in half. And the half he had to fund. And then he go face the same people who have received bribe and they asking him questions to be confirmed. Will you call that just corruption or is a societal ill? Will you refer to that as the most decent way for a Senate to sit in chamber to confirm, a Senate standing committee on this position that will confirm you, maybe the 5, 6, or 7 of them, or whosoever have many number of them in that committee, and you have to bribe each of them equally. And then you go back in the society now to work, and they expect you to be a straightforward man. When you two know this money, I'm going to get it some other way. Then at the end of the day, you still want that position, you turn around this time. I'm not going to depend on those men because you know what, we're all in now. I'm in. I got to go on. And on we always go. So to keep going on, I got to do those things that can keep me going on. Hey, I got to remain in power. Oh, go to Maryland County or go to Nima County or go to that county. One old man there is very powerful. He put you together. You go to the old man and say, oh yeah, my son, that position, people fighting you for it already. It's true. Nobody fighting you, but other people are calling for. To maintain that position, you have to perform so sacrifice. When they human this, human that. Then you go pay someone to capture whosoever child. and take that person and they drain that person's blood out of them, extract their private parts as requested, and you sit in a car, you drive every day, and you feel good. Yes, I'm enjoying this job because every time I have to kill, it's time for us to speak against these things. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Liberian Hot Show, and I'm Ben, your host, A Man and Sumo, and this is going to take us to the end of this show. I want to thank everyone today for tuning in. Come Sunday again, we're going to continue and a part two of this show, as you know, I could not cover everything, and this time we're going to be on another topic of societal ills, totally different from the two are future today. And so join me again on Sunday. We're going to have a continuation of the ills in the Liberian society. And this show for this run, I'm going to ask my anchor to have a phone lines open because I already got one or two people who would like to call in to contribute. So the next show, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be open live for whoever that want to make a comment or whoever that would like to make a call in, and then we can take it from there, because this time we're going to go more deeper into more ills in the society, our everyday thing, and it's going to be a very great show. I want to thank you again for tuning in today. I've been your host, as usual, A Man and Sumo, and you have a very beautiful week. Thank you very much. Turn it over to you, Mr. Doe. Yeah, sure.